Hello everyone, welcome, and thank you for joining me today. Get ready for a journey back in time, all the way to medieval Europe. Have you ever wondered how powerful kingdoms rose and fell, and how their leaders shaped our world? Today, we're diving into the story of the Carolingian Empire, a tale of mighty kings, epic battles, and new beginnings. Along the way, we'll discover some important people, events, and new English words that will help us understand history better. So, let's step into the past together. Let's begin with the Franks. The Franks were one of the strongest kingdoms in Europe during the early Middle Ages. They lived in the areas that are now France, Germany, and parts of Belgium. At first, the rulers of the Franks were from a family called the Merovingians. These kings ruled for many years, but over time, another family started to become important: the Pipinids. The name Pipinid might sound unusual, but it comes from a man named Pepin the Short. He was clever and ambitious, and he wanted to make his family even more powerful. His father, Charles Martel, was a famous leader who played a big role in the history of the Franks. Charles Martel's most famous moment came in the year 732. At this time, Arab armies had entered Europe and were moving north. Charles Martel led the Frankish army in a battle called the Battle of Tours. This battle was very important because Charles Martel and his soldiers stopped the Arab advance. The Franks won, and this victory made Charles Martel and the Pipinid family famous throughout Europe. After Charles Martel, his son Pepin the Short became the first king of a new dynasty. Now, you might be asking, what is a dynasty? A dynasty is a series of rulers from the same family, one after another. Pepin the Short started the Carolingian dynasty, which means his family would rule for generations. This was a big change for the Franks, and it set the stage for even greater things to come. Let's move forward to the most famous member of the Carolingian dynasty, Charlemagne. Charlemagne was Pepin the Short's son, and he became one of Europe's greatest kings. He loved to fight and expand his kingdom. Charlemagne's armies conquered many lands and united much of Western Europe under his rule. In the year 800, something very special happened. The Pope, who was the leader of the Christian Church, crowned Charlemagne as the Emperor of the Holy Roman Empire. This was more than just a ceremony. It was a moment that connected the power of the Frankish kingdom with the strength of the Church. Charlemagne became not just a king, but an emperor. An emperor is a ruler of an empire, which is a group of many lands and peoples brought together under one leader. Charlemagne was very smart about how he ruled his big empire. He knew he couldn't be everywhere at once, so he divided his kingdom into smaller parts. He sent trusted men, called vassals, to rule these parts for him. A vassal was a person who received land from the king. In return, the vassal promised to be loyal and serve the king whenever he was needed. This system helped Charlemagne keep control over his large and diverse empire. But Charlemagne wasn't just a warrior and ruler, he also loved learning. He wanted more people to be able to read and write, so he created schools. One of the most famous schools was called the Schola Palatina. It was a place where people learned not only reading and writing, but also about science, art, and religion. This period of learning and creativity is known as the Carolingian Renaissance. The word Renaissance means a time of great art and learning when people discover new ideas and improve old ones. However, after Charlemagne died, things started to change. His sons did not agree on who should rule the empire. They fought each other, and the empire became weaker. In the year 843, the Treaty of Verdun was signed. This treaty divided the Carolingian Empire into 3 separate kingdoms, each ruled by one of Charlemagne's grandsons. The unity of Charlemagne's empire was gone, and Europe would never be the same again. This brings us to another important topic: feudalism. Feudalism was the way society was organized during the Middle Ages. It was a system where kings and lords gave land to vassals, and the vassals promised to serve their lords. The land that a vassal received was called a fief. Let's review some of these new words. Dynasty. A dynasty is a series of rulers from the same family. For example, the Carolingian dynasty was started by Pipin the Short and included Charlemagne. Emperor. An emperor is a ruler of a large empire. Charlemagne was crowned emperor by the Pope. Vassal. A vassal is a person who gets land from a king or lord and promises to serve and be loyal. Fief. A fief is the land that a king or lord gives to a vassal in exchange for loyalty and service. Feudalism. Feudalism is the system of lords, vassals, and fiefs. It was the main way that society was organized in the Middle Ages. So, today we learned about the Franks and how the Pipinid and Carolingian dynasties rose to power. We saw how Charlemagne became emperor and brought learning and culture to Europe. We also discovered how his empire was divided and how feudalism shaped medieval society. And we picked up some new English words along the way. Thank you for joining me on this adventure into history. I hope you enjoyed learning about the Carolingian Empire, its kings and emperors, and the fascinating world of the Middle Ages. See you next time for more stories from the past. Take care and goodbye.